What if the people who were supposed to love you the most became the ones who hurt you the deepest? What if your own brothers looked you in the eye and decided you were worth nothing more than a bag of silver coins? Imagine being thrown into a hole in the ground while your family ate lunch nearby. Imagine being sold like cattle. Imagine being dragged away to a foreign land where no one knew your name and no one cared if you lived or died. What if everything you ever dreamed about seemed to die right in front of you? And what if none of it was an accident? This is a story about betrayal so deep it could break a man's soul. It's a story about years of darkness with no end in sight. But it's also a story about a God who never wastes pain, a God who works in the shadows, a God who turns evil into good. This is the story of Joseph. Long ago, in the ancient land of Canaan, there lived a man named Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons, but one son stood apart from the rest. His name was Joseph. Joseph was born to Rachel, the wife Jacob loved most. And because of that, Jacob treated Joseph differently. He gave him a beautiful coat with long sleeves and many colors. It was a coat fit for a prince, and his brothers noticed. They noticed the special treatment. They noticed the extra love. And something dark began to grow inside their hearts, something called jealousy. Then Joseph made things worse. He started having dreams, strange dreams, powerful dreams. One night, he dreamed they were all binding sheaves of wheat in a field. Suddenly, his sheaf stood up tall, and all his brothers' sheaves bowed down to it. He told his brothers this dream. They hated him even more. "Do you think you'll rule over us?" they said. "Do you think you'll be our king?" Then Joseph had another dream. This time the sun, the moon, and 11 stars all bowed down to him. Even his father was troubled. "What is this dream?" Jacob asked. "Will your mother and I also bow before you?" Joseph was only 17. He didn't understand what the dreams meant, but God did. One day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers. They were far away, tending sheep in the fields. Joseph walked for days to find them. When his brothers saw him coming from a distance, they recognized his colorful coat, and hatred filled their hearts. "Here comes the dreamer," they said. "Let's kill him and throw him in a pit. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams." But Reuben, the oldest, spoke up. "Don't kill him, just throw him in the pit." He planned to rescue Joseph later. So when Joseph arrived, they grabbed him. They ripped his beautiful coat off his back, and they threw him into an empty well. No water, just cold stone and darkness. Then they sat down to eat. They ate their bread while their brother screamed for help below. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine being so full of hate that you could eat lunch while your little brother begged for mercy? While they were eating, a caravan of traders passed by. They were heading to Egypt. Judah had an idea. "What do we gain if we kill him? Let's sell him instead." So they pulled Joseph out of the pit. They sold him for 20 pieces of silver, and Joseph was dragged away in chains. No goodbye, no mercy, just gone. To cover their crime, the brothers killed a goat. They dipped Joseph's coat in its blood. They brought it to their father. "We found this," they said. "Is it your son's coat?" Jacob collapsed. He tore his clothes. He wept for days. "My son is dead," he cried. "A wild animal has torn him to pieces." But Joseph wasn't dead. He was alive, and he was on his way to Egypt. In Egypt, Joseph was sold to a man named Potiphar. Potiphar was an important official in Pharaoh's court. Joseph worked hard. He kept his head down. He served faithfully, and God was with him. Everything Joseph touched seemed to succeed. Potiphar noticed. He put Joseph in charge of his entire household. For the first time in a long time, things were looking up. But trouble was coming. Potiphar's wife noticed Joseph too. He was young, he was handsome, and she wanted him. Day after day she tempted him. But Joseph refused. "How can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" he said. So she lied. She accused Joseph of attacking her. And Potiphar believed his wife. Joseph was thrown into prison. Again. Innocent. Again. Forgotten. Now, before we continue this story, I want to ask you something. If this video is speaking to you, would you take 1 second to subscribe? It helps more people find these stories. And trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Joseph spent years in that prison. Years, not months, years. But even in the dungeon, God was with him. The prison warden trusted Joseph. He put him in charge of the other prisoners. One day, 2 important prisoners arrived: Pharaoh's cupbearer and Pharaoh's baker. Both men had strange dreams, and Joseph interpreted them correctly. The baker would die. The cupbearer would be restored to his position. Everything happened exactly as Joseph said. But when the cupbearer was freed, he forgot about Joseph. 2 more years passed. Joseph waited, alone, forgotten, still trusting God. Then one night, Pharaoh himself had a dream. He saw 7 fat cows eaten by 7 skinny cows. He saw 7 healthy heads of grain swallowed by 7 withered ones. No one in Egypt could explain it. Then the cupbearer remembered. "I know a man," he told Pharaoh, "a Hebrew prisoner. He can interpret dreams." Joseph was rushed from the dungeon. He shaved. He changed his clothes, and he stood before the most powerful man on earth. "I hear you can interpret dreams," Pharaoh said. "I cannot," Joseph replied, "but God can, and he will give you the answer." Joseph explained the dream. 7 years of plenty were coming, then 7 years of terrible famine. And Joseph gave Pharaoh a plan. Store grain during the good years. Save it for the bad years. Survive. Pharaoh was amazed. "Can we find anyone like this man?" he asked. "The Spirit of God is in him." That very day, Pharaoh made Joseph second in command of all Egypt, from prisoner to prince in one day. Joseph was 30 years old. 13 years had passed since his brothers sold him, but God's timing was perfect. The famine came, just as Joseph said. It spread across the whole region, even to Canaan, even to Jacob's family. Jacob sent his sons to Egypt to buy food. They didn't recognize Joseph. He was dressed like an Egyptian. He spoke through a translator. But Joseph recognized them immediately. He tested them. He questioned them. He watched them closely. Had they changed? Were they still the same cruel men who sold him? When Joseph finally saw his youngest brother Benjamin, he broke down. He couldn't hold it in any longer. He sent all the Egyptians out of the room. "I am Joseph," he said, weeping. "Is my father still alive?" His brothers couldn't speak. They were terrified. They thought he would kill them. But Joseph didn't want revenge. "Do not be afraid," he said. "You meant to hurt me, but God meant it for good. He sent me here to save lives." He embraced his brothers. He wept on their necks. He forgave them completely. Jacob came to Egypt. The whole family was saved, and Joseph's dreams from all those years ago finally came true. His brothers bowed before him, not as enemies, but as brothers, restored. So what does this story teach us? It teaches us that God sees everything. Every betrayal, every lie, every dark prison cell. He sees it all, and he doesn't waste any of it. Joseph suffered for 13 years, but those years weren't accidents. They were training. They were preparation. God was shaping Joseph into the man who could save 2 nations. Maybe you're in a hard season right now. Maybe you feel forgotten. Maybe someone you loved betrayed you. Maybe you're sitting in your own kind of prison. Here's what I want you to remember. God is not finished. He is working in the shadows. He is turning your pain into purpose. You may not see it yet, but one day you'll look back and say the same words Joseph said. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. Trust him, even in the dark. Joseph's story reminds us that no pit is too deep. No prison is too dark. No betrayal is too painful for God to redeem. If this story touched your heart today, take a moment to subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it.